One of my main issues with page punchers has always been the way that the comics were handled for, I would like to say, 4 waves straight. Let's just say that. Compared to a build wave, where the incentive is to buy all 4 to get all the pieces to build the 5th action figure, you would think that that logic would apply in some similar form with page punchers, where you would buy all 4 figures and read all 4 stories together. So, like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and that concludes the story for that particular page puncher wave. Instead, they didn't do that until recently with the Ghost from Krypton wave, where that wave felt like, cool, these figures look nice, I want all 4 of them, and on top of that, I have to buy each one so I can read the story and find out how it starts and how it ends. And I think that's probably the way they should have gone about it since the beginning, but they did not. But I'm glad to see that it's changing, and I hope that with the next page puncher wave in this interesting design style where they try to make figures that are not based off any existing source material type of deal, because that's what page puncher has been. Maybe not this wave. This wave, the design is very reminiscent to something I've seen before. But speaking of the other waves, if they continue something like that style going forward, I hope that the Ghost from Krypton wave is just the start of this fix for the issue that I think a lot of people have had with page punchers. The figures are good, don't get me wrong. It's just that if you're going to be paying the same price as a build piece, like a build figure wave, right? $24.99 with tax, wouldn't it make more sense if the comic was something different, or in some sense like a continuation of like the first issue of the comic? So that is my grievances with page punchers. It's always been the problem, and I'm glad they're slowly fixing it now. After 4 waves, they realized, yeah, this is not a good thing. We should probably make like one longer story and then make people actually have a reason to buy these. So for me, I will still buy these figures regardless, because they look cool. And the reason why I want to start with this Batman in this page puncher wave is because the weather has been hot here in California, Southern California, and for the next few days it'll be like 100-something degrees over here at the time of this recording. So yeah, not fun. But let's talk about something that is fun, that represents some kind of wintry theme, I would say. So with that said, let's get into this figure, or what this figure is based off of. And before I do that, we must show what it comes with. As I've said, it comes with a comic book. And this comic book is basically a full-fledged issue where you can see the story, right? And I'll break down basically what the story is, but I'm going to flip through some moments just to show the insides of the comic. It's pretty cool. I like the art. As you can see, certain character doing something, and then you have, oh, the figure fell. It's okay, we'll pick that up. You have that, and then let's skip a little forward. Oh, here we go. Then you got Batman right there, and then you got Batman in the same image with Batgirl and Robin. So, and then there's Mr. Freeze again, and they start getting into a fight, and then Mr. Freeze literally gets destroyed and pummeled. So I don't know if he dies, but he gets obliterated, and then that's how it ends. So, and then they don't say what happens to him, and then it's over, and then you have a shot of the Hush Batman, so they're promoting their own thing, and then you got a picture of the page runners. So it comes with a comic book, which is very nice, and then it also comes with a card Now, compared to most DC Multiverse cards, I would like to say, this one doesn't tell you anything about this Batman. Because the back of these cards all say the same thing. They just give you a synopsis of the story that the comic is basically talking about. And that's it. There's nothing unique about that card. It's just a card. And basically the story, to break it down, is Mr. Freeze went back in time and to try to save his wife, right? It's a usual trope of he wants to save his wife, but the experiment that he was doing somehow warped them into the past, like 16,000 years into the past. And then in this said past, there's a Batman, a Batgirl, and a Robin. And you can clearly tell it's not Bruce Wayne. I don't think it's Bruce Wayne, Barbara Gordon, or Dick Grayson. This is just like maybe the ancestors or something, right? And because his experiment turned everything into a frozen hell, this is why they had to stop him. So they basically took their weapons and beat the living hell out of him. And that's exactly what they did. And that's the end of the story. There's nothing else going on after that. So that is the basic summary of what goes on in this story. And with that, we can now get into the figure, because this is what we're here for. So, Caveman Batman, as I like to call him, is not a new design. This has been done before in some other iteration. And I love that they finally brought him into the multiverse line, because these are still multiverse figures anyways, right? So what I like about this figure a lot is the sculpting that they put into a lot of the areas, and just the fact that it's just a very muscular body. And if you wanted to use this for any sort of custom that's not a Batman figure, I think this makes a good base body for that in general. Now, one thing I do want to preface is that these guys were packed in a clamshell packaging style, so not like your usual box like this where you just like cut the lid and then take it out easily. They used to be like that, but then ever since Todd decided, let's put these in an all plastic packaging, I don't think that was a good idea, because taking this guy out of the box was horrible. All four of these figures, even though I took them out of the box at different times, it was not good. It was not a fun experience. I hate this packaging style. I don't know why they went back to something like this. Maybe it's to capture some sort of nostalgia, but when you're trying to like take the figure out, it is like a nightmare. And then on top of that, how do I return the figure if it has some quality control issue? It's not like a regular DC box like this, where at most, if you just have some QC problem, you can still pack it back in. With that, you just can't do that unless there's a way to cut it that you can. Maybe I'm just cutting it wrong. I don't know. So, yeah, that's something. That's another problem I have with the packaging for these figures. But outside of that, luckily I don't have any quality control issues, so I'm very happy with the fact that they came out really good. And I think for posing, this guy definitely will do a lot of good stuff, especially with the axe. And I don't think that's a sword. I don't know what that is. So, okay, let's look into aesthetics. This figure is very, very hefty. He doesn't have weight to him like crazy, but I still think he feels like a solid figure. So he does have like this good build to him, I would say. And on top of that, areas that you would think are soft plastic feel sharp still. Like these are still, even though these are like soft PVC, like they don't feel like a sharp thing that will like break on you. They still can poke you, right? So you want to be careful with the gauntlets. And then on top of that, let's try to zoom in. There's a lot of details on his body when it comes to like scar marks, right, that are healed. I don't know if I like this glossy paint style they did on his skin tone, because I don't think it was needed. It just looks really weird that it's shiny. But yeah, they did that anyways. So, and there's a good amount of like scar marks on him where it's like, oh, he's been out there. He's a hunter. He's been fighting wild animals and stuff to survive and keep things for his, I don't know, his people, right? So I like the details to that. And then on top of that, this belt waist area, right, like this thing that he's wearing, this is so nice. I like the details that they put into that. And then the rope that he has, right? So again, is the paint like completely good? I think it's painted okay. Like maybe some areas could pop more with the paint. But again, all these sculpted bits. Now down here, these are sharp. Like this is not like up here with the soft plastic kind of. This is like sharp. So you want to be careful when you're like holding the feet, leg area, because that's kind of where the sharpness is when it comes to what is pokey on this figure, right? And I'm gonna take his weapons off so I can show how they look like after. But as you can see, when he doesn't have his weapons, he still can get the job done, looking menacing. Right, so you have his head, which has stitch marks, so you can tell that he probably skinned an animal of some kind to make his cowl, just like the thing he's wearing on his for his cape. And then on the back side, you have his beautiful cape, and I like the way they sculpted this cape. Then you have the back details, which is not painted much, just one solid color. So yeah, there's good and bad, but overall I do still like the details. Like you see that there are stitch marks on here, even in the inside as well as the outside of his cape. So all this kind of detail really does help bring out the figure in his like in details that they didn't have to do, but they did it anyways. So of course, if you do customize him and add a little bit more paint, he will definitely look even better. Let's just say that. So that is the aesthetic of the figure. As for his weapons, and this is another thing, he doesn't really have any other accessories. He doesn't have, what do you call it, interchangeable hands. All he comes with is just these two weapons. So I don't know what this is. Maybe it's a club. I don't think so. A club does not look like that, but it does look like some sort of sharp weapon of some kind. And then you have his axe, which is kind of cool. I like that there's like chip marks on it to show that it's been used a lot. So yeah, that's what he gets for accessories. And then as for his articulation, I don't want to go too crazy showing it because my copy is still relatively what do you call it, new and stiff in a lot of areas, which I haven't heated. So I'll show what I can, but so like his arms they can still do double articulation, as you can see. But this arm piece gets in the way, so that hinders that. He has swivel up here. He does have a shoulder butterfly joint. It doesn't really help with this figure because they didn't really carve out much room over here, so you can't really get it to go like too forward. So there's that. And then the arms on this side are the same as well. You got double joint. And then his hands do have the wrists and like the wrist swivel, and also the the ball peg inside can also rotate. So there's that. As for his legs, my legs are loose on one side, but it's not like the end of the world. He can't really kick out. So when you have a skirt piece like this, no matter how soft they do the material, it will still hinder him from kicking his legs out. So there's that, and then that's as far as he can do his splits. And he does have double articulation, but because this bottom side is very stiff, I don't want to do anything until I heat that up. And then as well, his feet articulation is kind of limiting because of the way that piece is sculpted, so it's not going to do much. And it's very tight, so it doesn't even want to move for me. And he does have toe articulation. And then for his waist area, again, very tight on mine, but the top part can rotate, right? It can, but until you loosen the stiffness, it won't move. He does have something very impressive though. He can ab crunch a little bit forward, which is pretty crazy because he can't go back, but he can go forward. So again, it's a really weird thing with like the way they do figures, because one figure has like the best leaning back and forward articulation, and this one I guess has only one but doesn't have the other. And his head is very limited as well. So because of this back part right here, he can barely look up. Like, he can't even look up at all. He can look down, but he can't look up. He can turn his head side to side, and then he can rock his head side to side if you want to do that too. So, and on top of that, I do want to point out another thing. His face does have scarring, if you can see right there. So, kind of cool. He has like some detail there, like he's been out there for a long time. So that is basically caveman Batman, as I want to call him. I mean that's basically what he is. And it's a really cool figure. I like this because, again, I know a lot of us collectors in this community, we all love Batman, but we don't want to see Batman all the time, right? Too many Batmans, as people always say in every post whenever he announces a new Batman figure. But it's no difference from Marvel Legends when they release Spider-Man figures and Wolverine figures. Like, there's, no matter how much we complain, we all end up buying it anyways because we are all part of that problem. But if you don't buy every Batman figure, then that's good for you, because you're smart. But for me, I end up caving for like every single Batman figure whenever it stands out. Now, I have kind of stopped in recent months. There is one Batman figure that I did not buy. I was thinking about getting it even when it was on sale, but I didn't. It was the what was it called? I think it was called the Knight of Steel Batman, the one that wears the knight armor and has a sword. I think that one came out looking really bad, so that's the reason why I don't have it. Even when it went down to like $13, $11, I still didn't buy it, so maybe I am stopping. Maybe. With that said, if you enjoyed this review, give it a like. If you want to sub to my channel, you can do that too. You don't have to. Take care, and I will see you in the next Fighting the Frozen review.